Hello, guys and gals, and I will be reading from Album of Horses, and this is by the well-known author Marguerite Henry, who wrote Misty of Chincoteague and a bunch of horse books. Illustrated by Wesley Dennis. Now, the receipt is still in here, and I got this book for 25 cents, well, 28 cents with tax from New to You Thrift Store. That is located in Beardstown, Illinois. And it was open prior to the COVID-19 outbreak. Now all the thrift stores are closed. But anyways, so I got this really, really nice book for 28 cents. And I basically saw it and had to have it. It says here, Merry Christmas 1967, Kelly Simpson from Aunt, I think that's Grace. I don't know. I can't really read that. But given that I believe this is a book from 1965, so this book is over 50 years old. And it is from Rand McNally and Company out of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco. And it looks like it is copyright 1965. I'm sorry, this is blurry. Yeah, 15th printing, September 1965. So this is really an old book. I'd have to actually do the math. Dedicated to these horsemen who drove me on with their kindly spurs, and to even some of the libraries. That's kind of neat. Okay, we are going to read. That's kind of cute. About the Arab horse, and the color plates in here are just beautiful. The Arab. Sun scorching the desert, withering bushes and spears of grass. Sun beating down on the camel train. Sun beat down on the camel train. Parching the lips of riders, slowing thoughts, slowing camel feet, slowing all living things of the desert except the small delicate mares capering alongside the caravan. Silently the cavalcade moves beneath the fierceness of the sun until out of nowhere a cry tears the desert stillness. Sand clouds swirl and hulk along the horizon. An enemy tribe, as one, the riders leap from their camels onto the backs of the mares and gallop towards the enemy. White robes billowing, lances gleaming in the sun. Now steel meets steel, and the mares are no longer playful. They are whirling dervishes, spinning on their hocks, charging, rushing ahead, missing a flying lance, wheeling, stopping, starting, galloping until lungs are fit to burst. This is tribal warfare. This is Arabia from the ancient days until the time when the deadly lance almost wiped out the fiery little steed. Always the desert warrior preferred to ride a mare to battle. Banat Eri, he called her. In the Arabic means daughter of the wind, and that is how she traveled. A great gust when the enemy pursued, a steady pace when no one threatened. Endless miles today and tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, and all this she could endure on the scantiest fare, on dry herbage and bruised dates, and even dead locusts when there were no grasses. But no matter how meager the fate, her master saw that her thirst was quenched. On the march, he carried an animal hide to make into a water vessel, especially for her. And at night, he milked the camels and gave the fresh, foaming milk to the mare before he fed his family. She was one of his own tent folk, eating what they ate, dozing when they dozed. Children sometimes slept between her feet, their head pillowed on her belly. It is doubtful if the desert men loved their horses as pets. Rather, they depended on them to warn with loud neighings if the enemy's approach, to carry them swiftly and safely into battle, and so a good mare was almost never for sale. She was better than gold or silver in the purse. She was wealth, freedom, and power. She was life itself. To sell her was unworthy. To give her away a princely act. An Arab chieftain jealously guarded his mare's reputation for swiftness, and he bred her to only the noblest of stallions, so that the pedigree of the foal became sacred. Often it was inscribed on parchment and tied in a little bag around the foal's neck, with a few azure beads to keep away evil spirits. When the foal was several months old, it was given a camel as nurse mare. The big clumsy creature adopted the nimble little one wholeheartedly, screaming in worried tones if it strayed, snorting softly when it came near. She refused to move from the camp unless the foal accompanied her. It was common practice to take these foals along on the march, letting them frisk beside their sedate stepmamas. Sometimes during the monotonous journey, a young Bedouin boy would spring lightly onto the colt's back, clinging stoutly with naked legs. As simply as that, first training began. Later, as a 3-year-old, the colt would be taught the movements of galloping in figure eights, changing leads at every turn, halting in mid-career, and all this was accompanied without punishment of any kind. Horsemen of the desert were patient. They had time. To judge the qualities of an Arab horse, the desert men would study the head first. Were the eyes like those of the antelope, set low and wide apart, enormous and dark in repose, fiery as the sun and stars in excitement? And the ears, did they prick and point inward, as if each point were a magnet for each other? And was the face wedge-shaped, wide at the forehead, tapering to a muzzle so fine the creature might lip water from a teacup? And did the profile hollow out between forehead and muzzle like the surface of a saucer? If all the answers were yes, the animal was of royal blood. Color was of no great concern. Chestnut or bay, nutmeg brown, or iron gray, all were good, but under the hair, the skin had to be jet black for protection against the rays of the sun. The underlying blackness is still found in Arabians today, and it gives the body coat a lively luster. As for size, even the smallest Arabians are big enough. Warriors of all eras rode them in battle. George Washington's Arabian charger Magnolia was delicately made, but she was big enough to carry him through the fiercest campaigns, and Napoleon's desert stallion Marengo bore him on his long retreat from Moscow. What were the beginnings of these little warriors? Where did they come from? Did the Creator actually take a handful of south wind and say, "I create thee, O Arabian. I give thee flight without wings"? Storytellers of Arabia explain it this way. Since time's beginning, they say the root or spring of the horse was in the land of the Arab. Our sheiks found them running wild, then caught the foals and gentled them. History can discover no better answer. The Arab horse is the oldest domesticated species in the world. Early rock drawings depict slender horses with arched necks and the typical high-flung tails. For all the world like today's Arabs. Storytellers relate that the Prophet Muhammad would tolerate only the most obedient mares for his campaigns. To test them, he pinned 100 thirst-maddened horses within sight and smell of a clear stream. Turned loose at last, they stampeded for water, but almost there they heard the notes of the war bugle. Only 5 mares halted. These were chosen by the Prophet to mother the race. One of the 5 was named Of the Cloak because of a curious incident. A rider escaping from an enemy threw off his cloak for greater freedom. Picture his surprise when he arrived in camp and found the arched tail of his mare had caught and held the cloak. Even afterwards, the mare's descendants were called Abayan, or of the cloak. Today, the upflung tail of the Arab is one of the chief characteristics of the species. When recent wars threatened the Arabian horses with extinction, Sir Winifred Blunt and his wife, Lady Anne, imported the finest Arab mares and stallions into England. They knew that the Arab blood is a white flame in its purity, and if it were snuffed out, there would be no way to refresh the blood of modern breeds. Today, America is helping in the crusade, which the Blunts began. There are now more Arabian horses in the United States than in all of Arabia. They are used for pleasure and for work on ranches, but these uses are of small importance. Wise horsemen are carrying on the strain, breeding Arabian stallions to Arabian mares to preserve the blood in its purity. Then it will always be available for future generations. Arabian blood is like that rare element added to steel which gives it the superior qualities of fineness and strength. And so the blood of the daughters of the wind has streamed west, its strength undiluted, its character unchanged in the wide-set eyes of these Arabian horses. There is still the fire of sun and stars, and in their motion the flow of small winds and the tides of great ones. War horses, builders of other breeds, yet holders of their own purity. And then there's pictures along the side of these Okay, we got time for another one, I think. Let's read about the Thoroughbred. This is another really popular horse. Okay, the Thoroughbred. A man needs someone to believe in him. A horse has this big need, too. Whether he is bred to race or show jump or draw a plow, he needs someone to believe in his power to run or jump or pull. Outward signs of the special qualities of the Thoroughbred may not be visible in colthood. Sometimes the colt is a playboy who resents having to grow up. He skitters around his pasture full of wild notions, and when he is put into training, he either throws a tantrum or bobbles along the track from side to side as if he were catching butterflies. It is then a colt needs championing, needs someone who senses strong fiber and spirit underneath the giddiness. This friend is not always the trainer or owner. Sometimes it is the man who rubs, feeds, and waters him, his groom. How that groom tries to get his thoughts through to owner and to trainer, perhaps he corners them, and so dead earnest is his talk, that the men laugh at the big sounding words and then walk off, pondering the seeds of them. So the colt gets another chance. I lost my place. I'm sorry about that. So the colt gets another chance, and another. Then one day he pushes against the wind and opens his nostrils to suck it in. Suddenly he wants to run, and he does, and he wins. And there at his side, ready with soft warm blanket, ready with words of praise, ready with rub cloth, stands his groom, feeling big in the chest and good. Everyone whose life touches a Thoroughbred has his own definition of the breed. Man of War's groom called him the mostest horse that ever was. A Salt's trainer said, the Thoroughbred is a creature of bone and blood and bottom. By bottom he means stamina and the wind of a fox. Jockey clubs throughout the world define the thoroughbred as a running horse, whose ancestry may be traced in unbroken line to one of the three Oriental sires. One of three Oriental sires. Before these sires were known, there were in England two types of horse: the big, lusty steeds used in war, and the small, plain-looking creatures used for the race and the chase. The racers were pony-sized, and the pacers mostly. That is, they did not gallop, they paced, the two legs of one side going forward in unison, then the other two. But when the blood of desert stallions, the blood of the vital little Arabians begin to trickle into England, a curious thing happened. The plain-looking pacers gave way to gallopers. The coarseness was fined down, and the fastest running horses in the world were born. The three founding fathers of the new breed were Byerly Turk, the Darley Arabian, and the Godolphin Arabian. Let me zoom in on that. Godolphin. The first of the three to appear in the English scene was a tough Turkish charger. Where he came from is a mystery. Some say that he was one of the spoils of war, and some say his forebears were Arab, not Turk. But no matter. What is known is that he was ridden by Captain Byerly in King William's War, and he and the captain survived the one big battle in Ireland and returned a fine fettle to England. There, as the Byerly Turk, he sired some famous racehorses. The second of the three was a magnificent bay with a white blaze down his face and three white feet. A traveling merchant named Thomas Darley discovered him in the Syrian desert. By some power of persuasion, he did the impossible. He convinced an Arab tribe to sell the stallion, and before the Arabs could change their mind, a handsome bay was bound for Buttercramp in England. Descendants of the Darley Arabian were renowned for their swiftness. One of his great-great-grandsons was named Eclipse, dimmed the brightness of every other racing horse. He was never beaten, never had a whip flourished over him, or felt the rubbing of a spur, outhoofing, outstriding, outlasting every horse that started against him. In all fairness, however, Darley's Arabian cannot be given full credit for the speed of Eclipse. On his mother's side, he was closer to the Godolphin Arabian, the third of the Oriental trio. The Godolphin Arabian was a little stallion who sired big. His clear bay coat was ticked with gold, and the only white marking was a spot on his off hind heel. The emblem of swiftness, he was a royal gift from the Sultan of Morocco to the boy king of France, but his deer-like smallness made him the laughingstock of the noblemen. They shunted him out of sight, not caring at all when he was sold to a brutal woodcarter. Horsewhipped through the streets of Paris, he was finally brought to a Quaker who shipped him to England, and there he became the favorite stallion of the Earl of Godolphin. Although the fiery little Arabian never started in a race, his name was found today in the pedigree of nearly all race horses. In Windsor Castle there is a painting of the Godolphin Arabian, and lettered around the frame are the words, "Esteemed one of the best foreign horses ever brought into England, he is allowed to have refreshed the English blood more than any foreign horse ever yet imported." These, then, are the three Oriental stallions and the foundation sires of the Thoroughbred. Their blood ran like a fine vein deep through the English stock, strengthening and fortifying it, and the new breed surpassed both the Arabian and the English horses in size and in running speed. Today, even the fleetest Arabian could not stay with the Thoroughbred on the track. Has America contributed nothing to the speed of the Thoroughbred? On the contrary, she began early to breed champions in 1775. Daniel Boone presented to the first Kentucky legislature a bill improving the breed of horses. Perhaps Squire Boone knew the value of Kentucky's bluegrass in building strong bone. Knowingly or unknowingly, he planted the seed when he started Kentucky on its way to becoming the land of fine horses. In style of riding, too, America has contributed to the speed of the Thoroughbred. About 1900, jockey Todd Sloan made a daring experiment. He shortened his stirrups, moved up from the horse's back, and crouched like a lightning bug on his neck. Here he was so close to the horse's ear he could whisper his home without whip or spur. Soon all of American jockeys were riding high like monkeys on a stick, and their horses were making better time. The bug boy crouch not only meant more speed, but it saved the horse's back, his weak spot. This is important as many racehorses are ridden before they are 2 years old. Maybe they are not even two maybe they're not even two. For all thoroughbreds are given the same birth date, January 1st. Thus, a foal born in April has his first birth date the following New Year's Day, when he is really only 8 months old. Samuel Riddle, owner of Man of War, used to say that thoroughbreds have an extra quality greater than speed. He called it heart. Thoroughbreds don't cry, he would say, and would tick off on his fingers the ones who showed this courage. There was War Admiral, who often limped painfully to his stall, but let the bugle sound, and he would walk square and strong to the post, and then fight like a gamecock to win. And Assault, the horse that stepped on a sharp stake, injuring his foot so badly it was malformed the rest of his life. The horse was a horse with less heart would have favored it, but he kept testing it, using it, and he became a Triple Crown winner, known as the horse that ran on 3 legs and a heart. And Black Gold, the middle-aged horse trying for a comeback, who broke his leg in the final furlong, but drove on to finish the race just the same. And there was also the gallant Dark Secret, a 16th of a mile from the finish in the Gold Cup race. He ruptured a tendon, forcing his weight onto his good front foot. He shattered it too, a step before the line, but he crossed it to win. Oh, okay, and we're almost done. Not too shabby. No, thoroughbreds don't cry. Big in heart, high in courage, they go on to finish the race. And that will do it for this. We read 2 selections. In the next one, we will be reading about the Hunter. The Hunter brand of horse, breed. And I get that this information probably is no longer valid because this book is over 50 years old. And we'll probably be able to finish the Polo Pony too. And maybe the Morgan. I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyways, we have been reading from Album of Horses by Marguerite Henry and illustrated by Wesley Dennis. And it was a book I got for 28 cents, which is pretty good for an original copy of a book. Anyways, with that being said, this will be the end of the video. If you like this content, then make sure that you hit like and that you subscribe and that you ring the bell and that you ring the bell so that you know when I upload. I appreciate all the support. All the information will be in the description below. And if you like this content, then make sure that you like it so that I know to keep making content like this. With that being said, that will do it for this video. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and have a great day.